My name is Martha. I'm 62 years old, retired, and I live alone in a quiet little house outside Chicago. I've lived a good life, worked for over 40 years as an accountant, and saved more money than I'll ever need. But if you saw me walking down the street, you'd probably think I was just another old woman counting coins for groceries. And that's exactly how I like it. My son, Daniel, never knew how much I really earned. After his father passed away, I raised him on my own. He saw me working double shifts, fixing old clothes, and cooking simple meals. He believed we were barely surviving. What he never knew was that I had invested wisely, paid off the mortgage early, and quietly built a small fortune. I wanted him to grow up humble, hardworking, and kind. When Daniel got married last year, I was so happy. His wife, Melissa, seemed sweet, soft-spoken, polite, and always smiling. They lived in the city, both working, both chasing dreams. I didn't want to bother them, so I stayed in touch through phone calls and birthdays. Then one day, Daniel called and said, "Mom, Melissa's parents are hosting a small dinner. They'd love to meet you." I smiled. After all these years, finally I would meet the people who raised the woman my son chose. But there was something in his tone, something nervous, almost hesitant. "Mom," he added, "don't bring anything fancy. Just be yourself." Be myself? I didn't know what that meant. I hung up and sat quietly. For a moment, I wondered, did he feel ashamed of me? Of my old clothes? My simple home? That night, I decided I wouldn't go as Martha, the retired accountant with a solid bank account. I would go as Martha, the poor widow from the small house with a patched purse and worn-out shoes. Maybe then I'd see how his new family really treated people. The next day, I packed my things in a small, faded suitcase. I left my jewelry in the drawer, wore my old green sweater with the missing button, and took the bus instead of my car. When I arrived at the city, Daniel picked me up. He smiled politely, but his eyes lingered on my shoes. "Mom," he said softly, "you could have dressed up a little." I just smiled. "I thought you said be myself." The dinner was held in a large suburban house, white walls, shiny floors, everything perfectly placed. Melissa's parents greeted us at the door. Her mother, Diane, looked me up and down, her smile thin like a blade. "Oh, you must be Daniel's mother," she said. "You came all the way by bus?" How quaint. Her husband, Mr. Thompson, gave a brief nod but barely looked at me. During dinner, I tried to join the conversation about vacations, wine, expensive schools, but each time I spoke, Diane interrupted with another story about her friend's trips to Italy or the new Mercedes she wanted. Melissa giggled at every word her mother said, and Daniel sat quiet, avoiding my eyes. The food was fancy, tiny portions, names I couldn't pronounce. When I reached for the salt, Diane whispered to Melissa, "Oh dear, she's using her hands." I smiled. I heard it all, but I stayed calm. After dessert, Diane leaned closer. "So, Martha, what do you do now that you're retired? Must be hard living on such a small pension." I looked at her and gently replied, "It's enough for me. I have everything I need." She gave me a pitying smile and said, "That's sweet." Then she turned to her husband and murmured, "Daniel could have done better, you know." I pretended not to hear, but Daniel did. He didn't say a word. Not one. That night, when I returned home, I sat in my small living room and cried quietly. Not because they mocked me, but because my own son let them. 3 days later, my phone rang again. It was Melissa. She sounded cheerful. "Mom, my parents' company is hosting a charity gala this weekend. They'd love for you to come, dress nicely, lots of important people will be there." I said yes. But this time, I didn't wear the old sweater. I didn't take the bus. And I didn't hide who I was. Saturday evening, a black limousine stopped in front of the Thompsons' house. The driver opened the door, and I stepped out, wearing an elegant navy dress, pearls around my neck, and the calm confidence that money can't fake. When I walked in, the room fell silent. Diane nearly dropped her wine glass. "Mrs. Martha?" she stuttered. I smiled politely. "Yes, dear. It's lovely to see you again." Her husband blinked. "Are you the Martha Henderson from Henderson Consulting?" "Yes," I replied softly. Retired partner, actually. Their faces turned pale. Daniel froze. Melissa's jaw dropped. The same woman they thought was poor was the same woman whose firm managed several of their family's business accounts. I turned to Daniel and said gently, "You told me to be myself, son. I just didn't realize you were ashamed of who that really was." He tried to speak, but words failed him. Everyone at the table went silent as I continued. "I spent my life teaching you that respect matters more than status. But maybe I failed, because tonight, I learned who truly has class, and who only pretends." Then I smiled, thanked the host, and quietly left. The next morning, Daniel came to my house alone. His eyes were red. "Mom, I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know they'd treat you like that. I should have defended you. I should have been proud." I hugged him. "It's not about money, Daniel. It's about heart. You can lose wealth, but kindness, once lost, takes a lifetime to find again." A week later, Melissa came to visit. She looked nervous, holding a bouquet of white lilies. "Mom," she said softly, "I was wrong. My parents judge people by their clothes. I let them treat you badly. I'm sorry." I smiled and took the flowers. "Melissa, forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about teaching." She nodded, tears in her eyes. From that day, things changed. Daniel and Melissa began visiting more often, not to impress me, not to borrow anything, but just to talk, to cook, to laugh. And as for Diane and her husband, well, rumor has it they lost a few contracts when they realized the poor widow they mocked once controlled their company's audits. Sometimes I sit by my window and smile. People spend their lives trying to look rich, but the real wealth is invisible. It's in the way you treat someone who has nothing to offer you. That night at the gala taught me something precious. Respect isn't bought with money. It's earned through manners, kindness, and the quiet strength of a humble heart. And if pretending to be poor was what it took to reveal the truth, then I'd do it all over again.